Is counting calories really worth it? The reality is a lot of people get overly neurotic and excessive when it comes to counting calories and tracking their foods. So I wanted to address this question. Is worrying about calories and macros and deficits really all that worth it? Or would it be better if you just focused on eating as clean and healthy as possible? First of all, let's get something clear. Whether or not you choose to focus on them or not, calories are what ultimately determines weight loss. Weight management, for the most part, ultimately comes down to energy balance. Calories are simply a unit used to measure energy consumed. If you consume more energy than you need, your body will have to use that energy for something. And what it does is that it uses up that energy to synthesize fatty tissue. Conversely, if you consume less energy than what you need, your body has to take that energy from somewhere. It breaks down tissue and uses up that extra energy. Usually that's fat tissue. So as a bonus fact, a calorie cannot be different from another calorie because a calorie is not something that physically exists in the world. It's just a measuring unit. Now, that is not to say that two foods with the same calorie content can't have different effects on our bodies, but the calories themselves are the same. Just to clear up that little misunderstanding. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to whether or not calorie counting is actually worth it for you. And the reality is that it depends. A big factor that we need to keep in mind when talking about counting calories is how competent the person that's doing the counting actually is. The average person is notoriously bad at tracking calories. Even professionals can struggle, and there's a lot of different reasons why calorie counting can be difficult. For example, companies do this shady thing all the time where they'll give you a product and they'll tell you that the serving size is, let's say, 30 grams, but the actual product, the package, might be 75 grams, right? And they'll tell you the calories for 100 grams and then their own abstract serving size. And people who don't take a look at the actual weight of the product, they can very easily fall into this trap and think that they're consuming much less calories than what they actually are. Another problem with counting calories is what we call the sneaky calories. So calories from condiments, sauces, even beverages. Many people forget to count those calories and they do add up, sometimes to even hundreds of extra calories at any given day. Snacking is also a big problem when it comes to counting calories. If you're eating mindlessly, if you're running around the house doing chores and then you're grabbing an almond here and a cookie there, it's very difficult for you to track those calories because you're not mindful of what you're eating. And I still haven't even mentioned how tricky it is to accurately track your food intake, especially if you're not using a food scale. And let's be honest, many people avoid the food scale like their lives depended on it. I don't know why, but many people are against the idea of using a food scale. It's very difficult, especially as an inexperienced person, to know how much food you're eating if you're not weighing it. Even things like cups and tablespoons can sometimes give you the wrong impression. Another obstacle in calorie counting is figuring out how many calories you actually need in order to lose weight. Of course, there are tons of calorie and TDEE calculators that you can use online. However, it doesn't really matter what equation you use because all those equations basically give you a rough estimate or a ballpark on how many calories you actually need in a day. Basically, what a TDEE calculator tells you is that an average person with your age, your weight, your height, your sex, and your physical activity level would burn this many calories. But as we all know, not everyone is the same. People with the same characteristics can have vastly different metabolic rates due to a lot of factors like hormones, responses to weight fluctuations, and many others. So basically, every time you're calculating your calorie needs, what you're actually doing is just finding out a rough estimate on your calorie needs, and then you need to do some trial and error to figure out where your real caloric needs lie. The biggest downside of calorie counting comes when we combine those two problems together. So imagine that your average person, let's call him John. John wants to find out how much calories he needs to eat in a day in order to cut back and lose some weight. So John goes to an online TDEE calculator, and let's say the calculator says he needs about 2,500 calories per day to maintain his weight. So John decides to eat 2,000 calories per day. Pretty simple, right? Well, here's the problem. Because calorie counting is difficult, John can't actively track his calorie intake. So instead of eating 2,000 calories a day, John actually ends up eating closer to 2,300 calories per day. And because, like we said, calorie calculators give you a ballpark or a rough estimate of how much you need to be eating, Maybe John's metabolic rate is closer to 2,400 calories instead of 2,500. So basically, John either loses no weight or has a very, very slow weight loss journey. And naturally, John's either gonna think that calorie counting doesn't work or that his metabolism is broken. This is part of the reason why half the population seems to think that their metabolism is broken. It's not, and calorie counting does work. It's just very difficult to do accurately for the average person. Having said all that, I still believe that calorie counting is in fact a valuable skill to have. I would still actually recommend people who are serious in losing weight and staying healthier start dipping their toes into calorie counting. The major benefit of counting calories is that it gives you much more flexibility in your nutrition. You can be much more flexible with your diet and still see good results. You have the option to include some, let's say, less clean foods in your diet, and as long as they fit into your daily caloric goals, you can still lose weight. The caveat here is that you need to prevent yourself from becoming overly neurotic and excessive when it comes to tracking those calories. If you're the type of person that can't help themselves and calorie counting is going to turn you into some sort of number-obsessed maniac, then yes, you should not be counting calories. You should be more focused to switching up your nutrition habits in order to facilitate a calorie deficit naturally. Or if your nutrition habits are solid, you should be focusing on just trying to cut back calories by reducing food quantity or taking out some snacks or switching up some higher caloric foods for some lower calorie foods. But if you are able to exact moderation, then I would recommend you start slowly learning to count calories and keep these things that I'm gonna say in mind to make your calorie counting journey more effective and easy. Number one, you're not gonna be good at calorie counting if you're a beginner. It's just how it is. Treat it like any other skill. You're gonna need some time to learn and become good at it. Don't depend on calorie counting to start seeing results. You can lose weight without counting calories. Many people have done it and they are currently doing it. And just like I said, you can focus on changing things in your nutrition to facilitate a calorie deficit without actually tracking your calories. Number two, there's gonna be a time and mental energy investment in the beginning. You won't know at the top of your head the calories in the foods that you're consuming. You're gonna have to keep looking them up online or reading the labels, etc. It's going to be a bit difficult and time consuming in the beginning, so you need to be prepared for that. This is absolutely normal. It's gonna get much easier if you keep practicing it. Don't push yourself to counting calories perfectly at the beginning. You're not gonna be able to. And going against what I just said, absolutely do not count calories in your head. You're not gonna be able to. This is something that very experienced people can do. Write your calories down. Have a journal or write them in your phone, but write them down. Number four, try to keep your nutrition as consistent as possible. I'm not saying that you need to eat the exact same foods every day, but I am saying that you need some sort of plan or program that has a fundamental nutrition core, right? Having consistency in your diet will make it much easier for you to track calories because you're gonna be exposed to the same types of foods every day. Number five, get a food scale and use it. There is no shame in weighing your foods. I don't know why so many people are against this idea. Probably stems from the fact that they can't exact moderation on themselves. They fear that they become overly excessive and neurotic about food tracking. But the reality is that you can weigh your foods without becoming a maniac. For some foods, once you get a good understanding on how big a portion size is, then yeah, you can ditch the scale for them. But if you're a beginner, use the scale, get a good understanding on how big a portion should be for you. Number six, don't forget condiments, sauces, beverages, etc. All those sneaky calories that we mentioned in the beginning of the video, they do add up. Make it a habit to write down whatever you consume, not just the solid foods. Number seven, if you're eating out and you can easily find out how many calories your meal has, that's perfectly fine. Do that, write them down. But if you can't, if there's nowhere to see the calories of the food that you're consuming, if maybe you're eating a home prepped meal or your restaurant doesn't have the calories available, don't worry about it. Do not bang yourself against the wall trying to find out how many calories your turkey burger with sweet potato fries had. It's not a problem if you don't count the calories on a single meal that you eat throughout the week, or even 2, or even 3, or even 5 meals. It's just learning the skill that's important. And finally, be chill about it, okay? Like I said, you need to treat calorie counting like any other skill. It's going to take some time, it's going to take practice, and you don't need to be good at it from the start. I wouldn't even recommend doing it every day. I would recommend you take like 2 to 3 days from your week and try to track everything that you eat in those days and then add up the calories at the end of the day. This is not about judging yourself about how many calories you're consuming or anything like that. It's just about learning the skill of counting calories. And then once you get better at it, you can increase the frequency, or maybe you can start experimenting with more complex foods and foods that have multiple ingredients. And if you don't want to count calories for the rest of your life, that's fine. Like I said, you don't need to count calories to lose weight. It's a great tool to have. If you master it, it's a great tool to have, and it's gonna make your life easier when it comes to adding flexibility in your diet, but you don't need to do it. If you like the video, please do like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.